What do you do when the music suddenly stops, and it's because of something no one saw coming? Brooks and Dunn just dropped heartbreaking news. Ronnie Dunn is facing something that could change everything. This isn't just a farewell tour, it's a goodbye wrapped in tragedy. But what really happened? And why is this the end of an era in country music? Stick around, because the truth behind Ronnie's diagnosis might leave you speechless. The moment Ronnie Dunn placed a hand to his chest and quietly stepped away from the mic, something shifted, not just on that stage in Indianapolis, but across the hearts of millions. It wasn't the typical concert moment, and fans felt it in their bones. It's the kind of moment you don't forget. When Brooks and Dunn took the stage at Gainbridge Fieldhouse on April 3, 2025, there was electricity in the air. The kind only legends can stir. The crowd, a sea of cowboy boots and throwback tees, was alive with anticipation, craving that familiar twang and the nostalgic rhythm of a duo that defined generations. But as the night unfolded, something subtle crept into the energy, a weight that wasn't there before. Everything seemed fine at first. Fans were on their feet, phones up, voices loud, riding the wave of classic hits. But partway through the set, a crack began to show. Ronnie, normally a commanding presence, started showing signs of strain. And then came the moment that has been replayed and whispered about across every platform since. During the encore, yes, the encore, while the duo launched into Boot Scootin' Boogie, the anthem that practically built line dancing, Ronnie suddenly stepped back. He looked out over the crowd and said, "Sing it if you know it." On the surface, it felt like a playful nod to the fans. But then he gestured to Kix, tapped his chest, slowly shook his head, and quietly walked off stage. There was no dramatic curtain drop, no showy farewell. Just a man, deeply loved, choosing silence over spectacle. And that kind of goodbye? It leaves you breathless. Is this really it? Could this be the curtain call of one of country music's most iconic duos? It was a haunting question that echoed louder than the applause. Fans immediately noticed what they'd missed earlier in the night. Ronnie sitting down during "Rock My World, Little Country Girl." Something unheard of from a performer who usually owned the stage. Some said he looked exhausted. Others noticed his voice trembled on the high notes. A fan online wrote, "He looked like he was struggling to breathe." Another simply posted, "This wasn't our Ronnie." And yet, even as emotions rippled through the crowd, Kix Brooks did what true professionals do. He kept playing, carried the weight of the performance on his shoulders without flinching. That's the kind of trust built only through decades of brotherhood. And when Ronnie stepped away, Kix never let the music stop. He didn't need words to let fans know. He had his partners back. The questions came fast. Is Ronnie okay? Is Brooks and Dunn done for good? What are they not telling us? The whispers turned into headlines when USA Today reached out for comment. Their team responded with a short statement. Ronnie wasn't feeling well, but Saturday's show went on as planned. It was something. But anyone who saw what happened knew there was more to it. Because this wasn't just a bad night or a little fatigue. This was a man pushing himself to the edge. There's something quietly devastating about watching someone you've admired for decades show signs of wear. One minute the crowd is clapping to "My Maria." The next, their hero is quietly bowing out mid-chorus. That kind of vulnerability lands hard. Especially when it's someone like Ronnie Dunn, a figure of strength and consistency, suddenly looking like he's run out of steam. Behind the scenes, Ronnie's been facing more than a few uphill battles. His health's taken hit after hit these past few months, and it's all been kept pretty quiet. Until now. In early March 2025, Ronnie was hit with a double diagnosis: COVID and strep throat at the same time. That's no minor setback. His voice was out of commission for nearly 2 weeks, and he was placed on medication, rest orders, and vocal therapy. For a man whose identity is tied to every note he sings, those days of silence were brutal. Even by late March, he admitted in an interview with Country Music Weekly that the lingering effects of the virus were still messing with his breathing. He said, "I'm still fighting some respiratory issues." And you could hear it, the frustration, the restlessness of someone who's not used to being sidelined. But there's more. Just months before the illness, Ronnie suffered a major knee injury while skiing at his Colorado retreat. A freak slip on the ice tore his ACL, leading to full-blown knee replacement surgery in December 2024. The rehab alone was intense. 8 weeks of recovery, minimal movement, and physical therapy. Not exactly the best warm-up for a nationwide tour. So you stack it all up, his knee surgery, the respiratory issues, the pressure to perform, and it paints a different picture. It makes that moment in Indianapolis feel less like a random fluke, and more like a man reaching his limit. And maybe, just maybe, that's what made it so powerful. Because in a world that expects stars to keep shining no matter what, Ronnie Dunn gave us something rare. He showed us what it means to step back with grace. The applause didn't stop because he walked off. It got louder, not because the song ended, but because the man behind it chose honesty over ego. And in that pause, in that gesture of quiet surrender, he reminded us why we loved him in the first place. Not for being perfect, but for being real. So now fans are left wondering, not what song comes next, but whether there should even be another song. And whatever the answer, this chapter in Brooks and Dunn's story will stay with us. Because sometimes, the moment that breaks your heart is the one that makes you love them more. Ronnie Dunn isn't the kind of guy who lets the spotlight see his pain. But there he was, limping slightly, leaning into the risers, determined to give everything he had. His Reboot 2 tour had barely begun, and already his body was demanding answers he wasn't ready to give. Most stars would have postponed. Ronnie? He doubled down, balancing physical therapy with nightly performances, masking discomfort with the grace of someone who's been at this for decades. And fans noticed. His right leg never quite landed firmly, and during the high notes, his grip on the mic grew tighter, almost like he was bracing against more than just the rhythm. Still, he sang. Still, he showed up. But there was something new in his voice, something fragile. That old powerhouse belt that made hits like Red Dirt Road unforgettable? It didn't carry the same thunder. Coaches, critics, even longtime fans began whispering about the shift. His breathing patterns were off. The notes came out shorter, not as full. And in a business where every beat matters, those little changes speak volumes. Yet instead of stepping away, Ronnie adapted. Songs were reworked, arrangements softened. The crew tweaked live audio in real time, helping him coast through tough spots. And somehow, even in that fragility, the magic remained. If you've seen him recently, maybe during Neon Moon or My Maria, you felt it. That tremble in the choruses, the quick glance to the band for backup, the way his voice reaches but doesn't quite soar. But here's what really hits you. He's trying. Not because he has to, because he wants to. Even after COVID knocked him down. Even after strep throat and a full knee procedure. All within the span of a few seasons. Who else would push through that, let alone while still touring? Naturally, rumors followed. Is Ronnie Dunn seriously ill? Is he preparing for retirement? The country music world knows how to whisper, and when an icon stumbles, those whispers become echoes. Some say he's buying time. Others fear he's planning a slow exit, a graceful curtain call. And while no official word has confirmed anything, fans aren't just curious, they're worried. Because Ronnie Dunn isn't just a performer. For many, he's a part of their story. But here's where things take a deeper turn. Ronnie hasn't made a public fuss. No long-winded interviews. No overly sentimental posts. Just quiet resilience. He keeps showing up even when it's clear he should rest. There's something almost old-fashioned about that. Like he's living by an unspoken code. Don't let them see you quit. And that code? It's why the fans are clinging to every set list, every concert update, every possible clue about what comes next. Then came Indianapolis. One moment, Ronnie was commanding the stage. The next, he signaled to the band. Something wasn't right. No drama, no announcement. Just a gentle wave, a hand to his chest, and he was gone. It was subtle, almost too quiet. But in that silence, fans heard everything. Within minutes, the footage hit the internet, and suddenly, the world paused. It wasn't just that he walked off, it was how he did it. Gracefully, without panic, but clearly in distress. Social media didn't explode in outrage, it swelled in love. It felt like the entire country music community gathered in one place. Instagram was flooded. Fans weren't just fans anymore. They became something closer to family. Comment after comment poured in, sending prayers. "We love you, Ronnie. Take your time." It wasn't noise. It was care, pouring through screens like a balm. You could almost feel the collective breath being held. Then came the first-hand accounts. People who had been there in the crowd started sharing their moments. Some said it was the best concert they'd ever seen, made even more unforgettable by Ronnie's perseverance. One fan wrote, "You looked tired, Ronnie, but your music healed my heart last night. Please get well soon." Another said, "It was my first time seeing y'all. Even if it's the last, it was perfect." That kind of loyalty? It doesn't come easy. It's earned over years of soundtracks to people's lives. And while Instagram was deeply emotional, TikTok turned into something else entirely. A living, breathing fan forum. The most viral clip came from Matt Malone, a radio host who caught the exact moment Ronnie handed off the stage. He nudged his guitarist to take over, encouraging the crowd to sing. That clip alone racked up nearly 90,000 likes. But it wasn't about numbers. It was about that feeling. Watching a hero admit he couldn't finish without saying a word. People in the crowd described how Ronnie looked before that moment, sitting down on the stage edge, wiping his face, visibly struggling. But he never made a spectacle. He just tried. That quiet dignity made the moment even more intense. The hashtags started flooding in. Pray for Ronnie, Ronnie Strong, Brooks and Dunn forever. TikTok became a support group. Fans traded updates, memories, encouragement. It wasn't speculation. It was a community trying to lift someone up. Not everything was worry, though. One fan posted that Ronnie performed the very next night in Peoria and sounded absolutely amazing. That one sentence became a lifeline. People clung to it like sunlight after a storm. Because sometimes, that's all it takes. A little good news to turn fear into hope. But still, the deeper questions remained. Was that one night a fluke? Was he pushing himself too hard? Is this the end of an era? The internet, of course, couldn't resist going into overdrive. Search bars were suddenly filled with phrases like, "Is Ronnie Dunn okay?" and "Did Brooks and Dunn cancel their tour?" Some even asked if this was their final ride. But the undertone wasn't gossip. It was concern. Real, heartfelt concern for a man who had unknowingly become a part of so many lives. And maybe that's what makes this all feel so heavy. Ronnie Dunn isn't just an artist. He's a living memory. A voice that's held people through joy and heartbreak. So when he falters, the ripple hits hard. Not because people expect perfection, but because they care. Deeply, quietly, fiercely. The crowd was buzzing. Phones were out, fans singing every word. And then, silence. Ronnie Dunn stepped away mid-set, and just like that, a wave of panic spread across the internet like wildfire. Was this it? Was this the final curtain for the voice that's echoed through country music history for over 4 decades? For a moment it felt like time froze. But sometimes, the truth isn't as devastating as the rumors make it seem. Sometimes, it's just a quiet reminder that even our heroes are human. Backstage, the whispers turned into headlines. "Ronnie Dunn's serious diagnosis," they screamed. The kind of headlines that send fans scrambling for answers, praying for good news. And finally it came. A publicist's statement confirmed what everyone was afraid to hope. Ronnie's health scare wasn't life-threatening. It was respiratory, yes, but manageable, temporary. And even more important, he was already improving. That little bit of clarity? It felt like a deep breath for everyone who'd been holding theirs. Because when an icon stumbles, the world watches. But when they rise again, that's when the magic happens. Yet the scare was real. Fans had noticed something was off long before the press caught on. Ronnie's voice, once soaring effortlessly, had started to show signs of wear. His energy, usually electric, felt dimmed. The Indiana show, meant to be another explosive chapter in the reboot tour, became a turning point. And still, here's the part that'll stick with you. He showed up. He gave what he could. And in doing so, reminded us why he and Kix Brooks are the legends they are. Because they don't just perform, they connect deeply and honestly no matter what's happening behind the scenes. That honesty extended to how they handled the aftermath. No cover-ups, no PR spin, just facts and a little humility. Ronnie needed rest, so they made adjustments, trimmed the set list, added backup support, tweaked the pacing. And the result? A tour that still burns with fire, just with a little more wisdom behind the scenes. Isn't it wild how even legends have to recalibrate? How even stars have to breathe? And while fans feared this might mark the end, Brooks and Dunn were quietly proving them wrong. Not only is the Reboot 2 tour rolling full steam into November 2025, but they've also inked a brand new recording deal. Yes, that's right. Instead of fading into the background, they're stepping forward. And that decision speaks volumes. In an industry where most stars their age retreat into comfort, Ronnie and Kix are doubling down on the one thing that built their empire, the music. Which brings us to Ronnie Dunn's world beyond the stage. A world as lavish and calculated as his lyrics are heartfelt. Over the years, Ronnie has built a life steeped in understated luxury. His Nashville estate, sprawled over acres of privacy and comfort, blends Southern charm with high-end modern elegance. He's driven everything from a Bentley Continental to a classic Ford Mustang, but his personal favorite? A blacked-out Mercedes G-Wagon, often spotted parked outside his studio. He's known for favoring Rolex and Panerai watches, each one a symbol of timeless taste. As for the skies, yes, he does enjoy access to a private jet, shared under a fractional ownership model with other industry elites. He's quietly invested in music publishing, has co-owned studios, and held equity in several startup ventures tied to music tech. His insurance portfolio? Rumored to include multi-million-dollar policies covering his health, vocal abilities, and touring equipment. Because when your voice is your brand, protection is everything. The biggest takeaway from his financial strategy? Diversify, protect your core assets, and invest in what you understand. Still, what sets Ronnie apart isn't just the wealth, the watches, or the private flights. It's the way he's blended that success with integrity. While others chased headlines, he stayed rooted in the craft, always chasing the next perfect note rather than the next viral moment. Remember his solo project? The one that defied critics and made fans weep? That was Ronnie showing us he had nothing to prove, but everything still to give. Kix Brooks, ever the firecracker of the duo, continues to be the rock by Ronnie's side. The courage to keep singing. And Brooks and Dunn? They're far from finished. They're just tuning up for the next encore. And that's the bittersweet truth behind Brooks and Dunn's farewell. If this moved you, Hit like, drop your thoughts below, and subscribe. Because the legends never fade. They just take a bow.